Welcome to episode 18 of the Film Student Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Lazzeroni. On this week's show, I sit down with Scott Fenton, my classmate in the Cyan Cohort, and we talk about Scott's early acting success, the wonderful world of commercial advertising, and one of my favorite projects this year, Scott and Ian's Catch video. On with the show.
I always wanted to go in entertainment. That was kind of my dream growing up. And
It wasn't just a dream. Let's clarify. It was somewhat of a reality for you.
Yeah, so great point. Humble brag. I was a child star growing up in my own mind. But for real, growing up, I did participate in local theater, and I also had an agent, humble brag. His name was Sam Samuelson. Great guy, and I did the whole kind of acting in Chicago type thing. So growing up, I would get picked up from school around like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd go downtown for a audition for a bunch of random things, and I remember, never really got anything. Then I had a hot streak.
Yeah.
For when I was in the 6th grade, I ended up landing a Frosted Flakes commercial. I was a goalie, and you probably saw my face for about 0.5 seconds, and you got a money shot of my knee. And that's where kind of things just took off for me. The next gig I got was I was a diabetic patient named Todd for a corporate video that they would show at Abbott Laboratories. And then from that point on, I was just the toast of the small little suburban town I grew up in until I became, I became a high schooler, and then I kind of just started focusing on sports. But after high school, and I got out of acting entirely, I always knew I kind of wanted to go back into entertainment. I just didn't know what part of it I wanted to do, and so I thought that I loved advertising. And I thought if there's really good, like the brands are posting like the really like cool stuff, like that was my role. I wanted to make that, so I thought, well, advertising would be a great way to balance both the entertainment aspect and the stuff that I wanted to do, that creative route, but also give me some business chops. And so my first kind of gig, or that really got me into that field, was with a media company in Chicago called Starcom, and the group I was part of was called Liquid Thread, and it was a branded content team, and I was working on some really cool stuff for them for their Kellogg's and Kraft Heinz business.
So you were full circle back to cereal.
Yes, and is actually really cool. The project I was working on that summer as an intern was for Frosted Mini Wheats, and I had to pitch. I actually pitched an idea that was actually executed with with Upright Citizens Brigade.
Oh wow!
And John Lutz, and it was a web series. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Because when you get into that kind of corporate aspect, especially with like Kellogg's, who's very conservative with what they wanted to do in terms of...
They beat the funny out of it.
They beat the funny completely out of it. And so it was cool, like, as an intern that summer, pitching an idea that actually got executed to senior level clients, and then seeing it go through like months later. They kind of ruined the whole idea, but I was like, hell yeah.
They do some sketchy stuff like that. The weird one for me, you ever heard of Don Hertzfeld?
No.
He did this series of like animated cartoons called like Rejected, and a couple others. It was white backdrop, little stick figure type characters, and just horrendous things happening to them, like blood everywhere, like just.
Oh wait, I have. Yes, I have.
Okay,
seen
so you know
those.
what I'm talking.
Okay.
That animation style got copped by Pop-Tarts. Like, if you go watch their ad campaign for the past like 3-4 years, something like that, they've got kind of the same little characters. And I always thought, oh, they must have hired Don Hertzfeld to do it. No, they just completely copped his style, like down to like the kind of the wiggly animation type. It's completely stolen from him, and he's apparently very pissed about it. Like you should be, it's they stole his essence, and then just made it not entertaining and not anywhere in his world of characters. It's
funny story about those Pop-Tarts commercials.
Yeah.
So they are actually
are they
pretty funny.
your?
No, they're not my idea. But I had a buddy in high school who his mom was connected to some like research group who would take these commercials out and do testing. So they'd show them to like the public first, get some feedback before they actually aired. And for some reason, he thought I'd be a good friend to have over and have this marketing group come in at his living room and do a testing session watching these
Pop-Tarts ads.
These Pop-Tart ads, and I remember. They showed the ad, and I was like laughing hysterically. I thought it was like the funniest thing I'd watched that night, and I was a stupid like 16-year-old kid. And afterwards, and they were paying us to give them feedback. And afterwards, they go, "So, thoughts? And I go, yeah, it was really funny. And they go, so would you buy it? And I was like, I don't know. I think, I mean, I laughed at it, but that doesn't make me want to go out and buy it. And I think we gave them that same feedback, all three of us, for like an hour. And it's probably the worst like market research session they've ever had. But shout out to Pop-Tarts for funny commercials.
Well, but it could be that could be really useful because at the end of the day, you are still trying to get them to actually make the buy at the end of it.
Yeah, I guess.
I worked in radio advertising for right out of college for a minute, and it was horrible. But I got to do some of the ad copy and stuff like that, and it was fun coming up with it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I have no clue if anybody's actually ever going to buy this product based on what I've written up here. But they push so much in radio ads of just sell it, stick it out on the air, like get them to spend $50,000 to test your idea. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not like you watch those Pop-Tart commercials. It's not like, I mean, they're all doodles. It's not like I'm seeing an appetizing pastry.
Right.
It's a doodle.
There's nothing getting me to actually buy it. I need to go to like Sam's Club or one of those where they do like the samples, like that.
You'll
will
walk
get me
around, test
those. I will buy.
Yeah.
Like you give me a free sample, and I'm like, this is delicious. I will buy that thing. That works.
Let me walk around Sam's Club for a couple hours and have a good time. Yeah.
But so what made you choose this school out of kind of going anywhere you could have?
Yeah. So then. Fast forward, I'm in account management doing kind of boring stuff at ad agencies in the past couple of years, and it was fun like working with creatives and like seeing like our like strategy and vision come through, but I didn't feel like I was necessarily doing what I wanted to do creatively, and I always kind of I had done some short films in college that I really enjoyed, and I always thought that I would love to write and see how I could actually create my own stories in the entertainment space. So when I first saw that Harold Ramis Film School is a thing, my mom actually sent me this. She goes, "Oh, look at this! It looks really cool. You should totally like apply." And I applied, and I got rejected. And Loki, I mean, it was I think it was a really stupid application.
But it kind of has to be like.
I don't think I really knew why I wanted to. I think when I wanted to apply at first, it was more so I was trying to escape my first job, and the second time around when I applied, I think I actually like kind of really figured out and got organized in terms of what I wanted this to
you
to
wanted
be
to
for
land
me.
here
Like,
as opposed to use it as a.
I wanted to land here. I had like kind of a clear vision as to like where I wanted this to take me, and whether it was take me back into whether it was take me back into advertising and go the creative route and just have like those creative chops, like a transition to a creative side of things. That could be a fallback plan, but like obviously my dream would be to like be a writer or work in development and do the whole entertainment route. So I thought this would be not only compared to other film schools, one is a one year thing,
right?
Which is awesome. Just because I don't want to be like 28 or 29 by the time I'm out of here, then kind of have to figure everything out at the end of my 20s, and then
so old, so late in life to be figuring that stuff out.
Well, you've been doing this for 10 years, so you're pretty accomplished. But also the fact that it has the Second City name, and just because I've lived in Chicago my whole life, obviously know who's coming through these doors. And
you're one of the few local people. Like, there's a lot of our class came from out of the middle of nowhere, and so it's kind of interesting that you're like that thing up the street. I want to go do that.
I was like Ian will always like say, "Oh, there's this bar around my apartment." Like I forgot what name. He goes, I always go, "Yeah, I've been to that place." And he goes, "Cool, the kid from Chicago, been everywhere around the city." I'm like, "Shut up, dude."
Listen to Scott. He's from here.
I know things. You got questions about Chicago? Let me know. I've only lived in the north suburbs my whole life, so just recently, a couple years ago.
But what? So you mentioned that you want to work in like maybe development or writing or something like that. What style? What kind of stuff are you into? What kind of projects would you like to work on?
I would love to work on something at HBO, just so I can say the word fuck. I think it makes everything funnier. No, I love. It's kind of hard because as I'm figuring out my own stuff here, I think all the ideas I've come up with so far in terms of my own writing have been for features. But I would love to work on something with my viewpoint, my point of view. It's very similar. It's kind of Larry David-ish. I'm pretty raunchy. I think there's a little bit of like that whole like Seth Rogen, like James Franco buddy stuff. I write a lot of like buddy bro. In quotation mark comedy type things.
You pitched something today with cross-dressing.
Which I think is money if I can figure out the tone and the story correctly. and I don't want it to be as goof in this cross-dressing he's referring to. Is this idea I have? I promise you, it's not the next White Chicks.
No, it's not. It's better.
It's more in line with
with
like Bosom Buddies. Remember that show
with
Tom Hanks? So hopefully it's cool. But raunchy, like kind of bro comedy. I am of the Jewish faith, so I have a lot of that built into my kind of POV and the stories I tell and just the experience that I've had. But yeah, that's kind of me.
And you want to try and write that stuff, or the development thing was interesting for me because that was something I'd not considered coming into the program. But then when were you there for when we had the two women from Comedy Central coming in and talking about?
I wasn't considering development until after they came in, and I was like, holy crap, like this is some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I could see myself doing this. Not only would it be fulfilling from a creative standpoint, being able to like collaborate with like awesome comedians and figure out new shows and reading through scripts and coverage and getting my kind of viewpoint and input out there, but also you get that kind of business side of it where you have a little stability,
right.
And there's
actually a company that you work for. The job will be there for some definable period of time that is beyond
and when
3 months.
Comedy Central came in, I love the fact that she talked about her job was to basically go out, find new talent, read through a bunch of scripts, see stand-up comedians every single night, figure out who'd be the next guy with a unique voice and something that he can contribute and like tell a story that just needs to be told. And like I feel like I know funny. Not
you know what you like.
I feel like I know what I like, and I feel like that could be something that I'd be like very interested in. So wasn't really thinking about that before. I kind of had just my sights set on being a writer, but I think development is definitely something I want to look into.
Yeah, it was one of those things that I'd known that it existed as a thing, like that you signed a development deal, but I never really thought about, there's a department at X company whose sole job is to then help you figure that thing out. I guess I always assumed it was like in their downtime, the directors of the shows would like help look at this stuff, and you don't think about, all right, who are the cogs in the actual wheel that are making this happen.
There's a lot of players that we never really think about outside of those.
I've started watching when I go to movies, just watching the credits a little bit more intently,
right?
To see like what's going on with it. And the one that cracked me up was Infinity War, because it gets down to the art department stuff, and that's where you get into all the animators. And that movie was so big as far as special effects and animation goes. They have like 15 animation houses that are working on it. And so they get through like the first one and you're thinking that's the one. And there's, the sea of names where they don't even stack them. They put them like rows of names that go the full width of the screen to get everybody's name in there. And it still goes on and eats up the whole screen for, one full scroll. And then they get to the next one, and then it's another list just like that.
Since being in film school and kind of, I think it was just working on sets the first couple times, I now have such immense respect for every single person's role, no matter like leading it. Like I like you said, I go to the movie theaters and I look at those credits, and it's like, wow, I'll never see your name again, but that was amazing stuff. And like the work that goes into it is like, oh my God, like these people are so specialized in certain areas that it's like amazing.
And everything takes some level of talent. I mean, we're for one of the productions here looking for somebody to run the boom, and we're having to be careful about who you get, because you want to get somebody who's a little bit more intelligent about where they're pointing the boom. When do you move it? How do you move it so that it doesn't make extra noise? Like,
you gotta be tall to be a boom guy.
Not necessarily. No.
Yeah, I could be a boom guy.
Yeah, you could be a boom guy. If you wanted to run boom, you could.
Yeah, I feel like boom guys are usually like big guys. They can kind of reach different places.
Not necessarily. Like it doesn't hurt to be able to reach higher with it, because you can get it out of frame more. But if you are artful with where you put it, and you're good about positioning it so that you're getting a good sound out of it. I've seen plenty of people like mic from underneath.
Sure. Do you think like a LinkedIn job posting for a boom guy would say height a plus?
I don't know. Have you ever seen one like that?
No, I'm trying to figure out where these job postings are. Not on LinkedIn.
Well, there was Mandy.com. Have you ever looked at that one?
No.
Mandy is a site that I had looked at back when I lived in DC. It's very minimal for there. It's mostly like LA, but it's they have like a gig job board, and they'll post, and there's some that are unpaid, some that are paid, but it's a good spot to go find some of these types of gigs. That's just one of many. Variety, I think, has their own page now where you can go see like a job list through it. Craigslist is a big one for that kind of stuff. Like it's.
Do you trust Craigslist though?
I trust myself to understand Craigslist enough to.
Well, you're the Craigslist ink man. You're I'd say you're an expert in Craigslist.
That does not make me an expert in Craigslist because I did get that second response, the face tattoo.
Yeah. I'd say you're well versed with the characters of Craigslist.
This is true. Honestly, if you spend a day doing anything Craigslist related, you will become well versed with the characters of Craigslist. Post any one ad, and you'll find all the people coming out of the woodwork for that crap.
Yeah, totally right.
So, as out of the program here so far, now we're kind of at this not quite halfway. We finished the first term, starting term 2. What's the biggest thing that you've gotten out of this so far that you either weren't expecting or have gotten a lot more of than you were expecting?
I think I wanted to come here because I wanted to figure out like how to write and how to format correctly, and not just blab a bunch of stuff out on a piece of paper, but actually like understand like how to set up a story in a way that's digestible for an audience to understand. I think nothing here is really super like linear. Like you kind of have to like go around and come back and find your way through, and that's how you kind of understand the story. And I feel like now it's starting to click where like I understand story structure for like a 30-minute pilot, or if I'm looking at a feature, all the work that kind of goes into it, not just like having the story, but thinking through the actual plot itself, and like what are those moments that matter, like the key turning points, and like even like outlining a film for me was not something I ever did. Like I felt pretty like good first session when I had this like idea, and I thought like I understood the whole story, but then it was like there's so much work that goes into understanding the full thing and the full concept and mapping out and being organized. I think being organized is one of those things that goes a long way in this business. And then I think one of the biggest takeaways I told to people who had asked me about school outside of it was there's a big difference between making comedy and being funny.
Okay.
And I think
I can see that. That makes sense.
See that? Does that make sense? Or is that kind of
No. It absolutely makes sense. Because I mean, you can be a funny person and terrible at making something. Yeah. I've seen that plenty. I've seen people that I've worked with on projects. I've seen people that have done their own stuff that are funny as hell, but have no understanding of how to translate that into a different medium.
Yeah.
Like they know how to tell stories in person, but if you ask them to film something, some are intuitive enough and can figure it out and can put something up that's at least watchable. But for the most part, many of them, they don't have the skills necessary for it.
What I mean by that, like I'll go to whether it be like a party or just out, and people will be like, "Oh, you're at Harold Ramis Film School. That's so cool. Like, let's write a script together. Let's do this right now." Like these people who come out of nowhere saying they want to start writing, and I go, "Okay." And so then they'll always be funny, like telling stories, and they'll be like a wild person. But then we get into like a scenario where I'm like, "Okay, let's meet up at like 8 a.m. and start writing some stuff." And then it's like everything kind of goes out the window, and it's just very different.
Nobody's actually and commitments is tough to find. Those people that are actually. That's what I was.
The stuff's super hard, man.
yeah. Well, and that's what I was messing with in DC is just trying to I over time put together a group of people that were reliable and would continue to come out to work on the same stuff or something new each time, but at any rate were reliable enough. You'll get plenty of people that are just going to be flakes and will show up like. For one thing, maybe other things they'll abandon last minute because to them it's like something else that they're doing on the weekend as opposed to like our main thing that we're focused on, like trying to finish a project. So it's been helpful to make some stuff. Speaking of which, so you've got going back to the Kellogg story. You did the E True Hollywood story of yourself, like the fictionalized version of it for your first project. What else have you done project wise?
So I did the E True Hollywood story. It was very like Christopher Guest, Chris Lilly inspired. That was basically about I always thought it was funny if there was a kid. It was me. If I could show that in the E True Hollywood story style and kind of spin it as if I was somebody who had totally kind of fell off and had like the child star burnout. So that was fun. That was my first project. The second one I did, which I'm like not as like excited about, but I think it turned out okay for like my second project here. It was called Glenn. It starred the great Dustin Chilton, Adrian
former guest on the
show, and Dan Hicks, and it was an adaptation of a Second City sketch where a couple comes home and they find that the girl's roommate is after a first date. Her roommate is her older brother Glenn, and it's this guy wielding nunchucks in a wife
and
beater.
breaking nunchucks
and just weird on top of weird on top of weird, and it's a little raunchy, and there's some weird stuff in there, but that's what I kind of like, and it was funny, and that for me was like the first time I've ever really done like a real shoot where I had like not just my friends acting in it, but like actual legit actors. We had to go on set. We went out to Evanston department. We were pretty time crunched, and so it was like my first time really running a set as a director, and we had everybody there and kind of getting organized. And so I'll never forget that experience. And it taught me like a ton about like what I need to do in terms of prep moving forward.
Yeah,
like
you learn more about it just by doing it.
Yeah,
like the first handful of sets I did, if I look back on that stuff, train wrecks, like complete train wrecks compared to what I would run now, but nobody could have told me at that point in time, like, oh, you can't have a writer's room with 20 writers for a short film. Like I was like, yeah, they're all funny. I'll bring them all in. They'll all be helpful for it. No, it's just a train wreck because you have way too many cooks in the kitchen. Now it's like, okay, max like 5 people that I'll have in that room.
So 5 people, get people you trust.
Yeah.
Who like,
you understand their voice, what they're bringing to the table.
When something stressful happens, you can like look to them and like, if you're in shit, you're in shit together. But at least the people who you're with are people who are cool that you can hang out with, and like
you're not going to rip somebody's head off.
At the end of the day, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the other one that you did, term one, I still love the catch video.
God.
So we had to.
I don't understand everyone's obsession with the catch video.
We had to produce a catch video, and it had to be somehow recording a game of catch, and it could be between anyone or anything. And so like I did it with Will Wilcox from previously on the show. Like he and I went out and did one in our alleyway behind our house, and like threw a football around, turned into a cabbage, turned into whatever. You and Ian went out and started playing catch with statues.
Yeah,
and it is one of the most brilliant
I had so
things.
much anxiety leading up to our video because it was like one of the last ones shown, and I watched your guys. I was like, "Damn, he pulled the cabbage bit." That was a good call.
You guys, but that's the thing is everybody else did actual games of catch, and yours was unique in that it was you're playing it with inanimate objects.
So we went outside and we're walking past Lincoln Park Zoo out to like Lincoln Park, and we're walking around, and it was pretty cold that day. And I go, okay, so how do you want to do this? And I think his original idea was that he wanted me to just like throw the ball up in the air like really high, and he was going to be like, man, catch used to be fun when I played with my old dad, not his dad. It was like something about his like dad being dad, and like didn't have anybody to play catch with anymore. He was playing catch with himself. And we were walking past a statue, and I was like, well, I'm going to just like play catch with the statue, and you can just it'd be really weird, but we could film it kind of like handheld, like Office style, and like weird zooms here and there. And we did it 3 different times, and for some, I guess the last one had it was a nut shot. Yeah, right in the nuts of the bronze statue, and I guess like Mossman laughed his ass off. He thought it was the funniest thing ever, and I was like, wow, I guess this really resonates with people.
We keep on telling you guys go film more of those. Like
I think we should.
We will. I sent you a picture of the Tin Man statue that's in one of the parks.
Yeah, in Oz Park they have
Oz Park.
Mm-hmm.
Shows you how much I know about Chicago so far.
Just west of here.
I should trust you on it. You're from here.
They've got Dorothy. I think they have the Tin Man and the Lion. Maybe more. If he has no more statues that are kind of cool,
there's got to be a scarecrow. If you've got the other 3, might as well. Hopefully, there's a scarecrow somewhere. But at any rate, no, you guys should go do more of those. They're ridiculous. Did you post that publicly someplace?
It's on my website.
Okay. Because I'm that's the other thing is I'll post stuff afterwards, so to post it to the website for people to check out. So I'm going to drive people to go see.
I had a friend who checked out my website a couple weeks ago. He goes, just came across the catch video, laughed my ass off.
Exactly,
I was like,
it's great.
I don't get it, but
that's
works.
the thing.
I don't have to get it.
I feel the same way about like the Disaster Artist, the Room. It's inexplicably one of the best comedies you'll ever see, even though it was never intended to be that way whatsoever.
Hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark. Denny. Is his name Denny?
Oh, hi, Doggy.
Hi, Doggy. We're going to go upstairs. You can stay down here.
Oh,
Weirdest
Denny.
movie. I watched 10 minutes of that movie, and I was like, what am I watching?
Have you seen it in a theater?
No.
You need to go.
The Room or Disaster Artist?
No, the Room. You have to go to like one of the midnights. So DC, I know they do midnight screens. There's probably a place around here that does them, but they'll do like a midnight screening, and it's kind of like Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like people will bring things. They'll like the thing you need to take so that you're prepared for it is a package of plastic like disposable spoons. Because during the course of the night, anytime they show, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but in his apartment, whoever did the art design for that film just needed to put up photos, and so they went and found these things that look like almost like Easter Island spoons, like the Easter Island heads, but it's just spoons, and they have a couple of them, like a couple of framed photos of spoons, and so whenever those come up in these screenings, people will take their plastics, they'll yell spoon and chuck spoons at the screen. And so it's just 100 people throwing.
Can you imagine being the set designer for that?
Oh,
like what's the brief? Like what do you?
It's total insanity.
How do you even like figure out like spoons is the way to go?
But I think the more magical one was the people that did it for the movie The Disaster Artist, that had to clone that stuff as best they possibly could. Like, and you saw the Disaster Artist?
Nope.
Oh, you need to see that because at the end of in the credit sequence, they do the remake scenes that they filmed with their actors, matching the original scenes like side by side. Shot for shot, like matching them as close as they can, and they did a really good job on a lot of them, getting them as close as possible to the original material, like eerily so in some cases, matching it up almost down to the pacing of the actual lines being.
Yeah, that's definitely on my watch list of things to watch. I always wanted to watch the whole The Room first, which I did. It was horrible, and I just need to.
You need to see one of those screens. Like, let's get a group together. Let's go find one of those like midnight screenings and go check them out, because that's the way you have to see it. That's the way you really appreciate it, to see it in the theater, the way that people originally did.
All right, let's put it on calendars. We'll find it, and then we'll go.
It's magical. It's magical. All right. Well, so kind of in wrapping up here, any final thoughts as far as if somebody were considering trying to come to Harold Ramis Film School or looking at film school in general? Any recommendations? Any thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I think Harold Ramis is a great place if you're looking for kind of a 1-year program as opposed to like a 3-year traditional film school. I think you have some of the best teachers in comedy in the country here, as well as as the school gets more legitimate, obviously with like the huge DePaul merger and all these different things going on. Like Chicago is a fantastic city. It's unreal. I mean, I've been to New York and LA. I love Chicago, and I'm biased. It's my home.
It's easier to get around here than it is in either of the other two. And
easier to get around.
You can get to the things. Like there's good things going on in all 3 cities. This one you can actually get to them in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, and I feel like people here are just level-headed. Like get that whole Midwest thing, and like
Midwest
people here
chill.
are grinding, and everyone's hustling. Everyone's here trying to like make their mark, and whether it be in entertainment or whatever else trying to do. Like everyone here has the same purpose of like it's a really cool community of like people who are collaborators. And they all want to do awesome work, and everyone's hustling and grinding and trying to like make the best stuff. And then I think the people here I've met, are some of my like really like good friends, and like I can see these people being people that I work with like for the rest of my life. And so I love how it's such like an intimate, like it's a boutique film school, and like you have this class of 10 to 15 kids that you're with every single day for a whole year, and like what's better than going to a school where all you're doing is you're making comedy? And like that for me, that was like one of the big reasons why I came here, was because I wanted to go to a comedy film school. Like I wanted to focus on comedy. That's my jam. And of course you can come here and you don't have to just do comedy. Like we've seen classmates and other people like make stuff with the more serious thing, but as long as you're like learning like the great story, like how to tell the story in the right way, and like you have world-class teachers here, guys, you're gonna like be so pleased with your experience.
You get the practice,
awesome.
go through those emotions, get the put it together, understand how things fall, and make an actual film. or 10 or 20.
Exactly.
As it winds up being. Well, if people want to try and track you down on social media, find the website, maybe find your podcast, how can they find all that stuff?
So, all right, I'll plug these things.
The plug hour.
Here we go. The plug minute. My website, where you can find my portfolio and stuff, is www.scottfentoncomedy.com. Super simple. My social handles, you want to follow me on Twitter? I'm a good Twitter follow. I do a lot of ranting about sports, but it's always the comedic angle. It's at Hey It's Fenton.
Okay.
Super simple. Instagram is at Scotty Does Know with 2 Y's. Scotty doesn't know, but Scotty does know.
Scotty does know.
And then I'm actually doing a podcast right now with a childhood friend of mine, both big sports guys, but it's about sports and pop culture. They're hour episodes. This is a brand new thing for me as of a couple weeks ago. But it's funny. Give it a listen. It's at In Sync Podcast. INSYNC podcast. So we're both
not to be confused with the boy band In Sync.
Not to be confused with the boy band In Sync. It's a nod to them.
Okay.
A little nod. We do so we're in sync with one another as co-hosts.
Okay.
But it's a nod to the great In Sync because we do end every episode with bye bye bye. So yeah, give us a listen.
Awesome.
Yeah, Tony, this is great.
Yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
That was Scott Fenton. Be sure to check out Scott's podcast, the In Sync Podcast, available now on Soundcloud. Thank you to Scott and to the Harold Ramis Film School and Second City staff for their help. The song on this week's episode was All In by the Great Heights Band off their new album Rad-Pop, available now on iTunes and Google Play. This show is recorded and edited by me, Tony Lazzeroni. If you want to hear more from me and my classmates, teachers, and a few special guests, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. If you have questions or comments, send us an email at filmstudentpod@gmail.com or find us on Twitter and Instagram at filmstudentpod. And be sure to check out some of my and my classmates' work at filmstudentpod.com. Our newest post is Scott and Ian's catch video, the one we mentioned in today's episode. Check it out. See you all next week. Class dismissed!